This is CBC Here and Now.
Well, there are questions about what happened inside this home on Friday in Conception Bay South.
2 people have been found dead and police aren't saying very much.
There's risk of snow squalls tomorrow on the west coast. I'll have that and all your weather details coming up.
This is not just any shampoo. For the residents of St. Luke's, it means Christmas joy.
I got clothes last year, chocolates.
Items that are more of a comfort of what they would have when they were at home.
That's just ahead.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Peter Cowan in for Anthony tonight.
And I'm Carolyn Stokes. We start with the latest on the COVID-19 booster.
Yep, more people can now get a booster dose. The province announced new rules today. Let's break it all down for you. So anyone over the age of 18 can get a third dose, but only 6 months after your second dose. So for example, if your second dose was on June 13th, you'd be eligible to book now. You can book your vaccination online through the health authorities. Now, if you're over 30, the province is encouraging you to get a dose of Moderna through your pharmacies or through the family doctor. That's because kids need a dose of Pfizer, which has to be administered by the health authorities. If you're 18 to 29, you should get Pfizer because it has a lower risk of side effects for that age group. Emerging scientific evidence is showing that 3 doses is more effective against the Omicron variant. Meanwhile, there are 15 new cases of COVID-19 to tell you about in the province since Friday, and some new testing requirements for some university students returning home for the holidays. Let's take a look at those new cases. 4 are in the eastern Newfoundland region and 11 in the western region. Public Health has listed several possible exposure sites on the west coast, including several in Deer Lake, such as the Rift Store, the pool at the Hodder Complex, and the Salvation Army Church. Now, students coming home for the holidays from St. Francis Xavier University in Nova Scotia or Queen's in Ontario are being asked to get tested for COVID-19 upon arrival. Both of those schools are facing outbreaks right now.
As you're the big winner, I guess. Chef, congrats.
A lot of excitement for a lot of money. The Kids Eat Smart Foundation just won $100,000 in a national competition. Coming up, we'll speak with the executive director about what that win means.
Hey, I'm Jeremy Eaton filling in for Ashley Brauweiler this week. Excuse me, I'm off to a good start. Excuse me. So we have some weather on the way. We'll take a quick look at what we're going to look at. So it's going to get cold overnight in Labrador. No shock there. There's a snow squall risk. Now, there's been a snow squall warning in place much of the day for parts of the west coast. That's basically Corner Brook and vicinity and Grossmore, but it could extend into Stephenville and Deer Lake. Now, that is no longer in place, but there are risks of a snow squall tomorrow, which could bring some snow to the west coast. And as for the Avalon Peninsula, man, tomorrow's just going to be a mixed bag of weather. It's going to be rain, it's going to be wind, it's going to be sun, it's going to be snow. Anyways, we'll get into that, all that and more coming up later on the show.
Thanks, Jeremy. Well, there are still questions tonight about how 2 people in Conception Bay South died. The police are saying little about the discovery of 2 bodies over the weekend, and many are wondering why. Here Now's Meg Roberts has more.
The police are investigating what the force is calling a sudden death involving a man and a woman. Police responded to a home in the Manuels area of Conception Bay South Friday evening. At the time, the RNC tweeted they were responding to an incident in Windy Cove Lane area, and residents were being asked to avoid the neighborhood. The tweet also said there was no further risk to public safety. However, police aren't clarifying whether there was ever any public risk. Now, 3 days since the discovery, there is still little information from the police. The RNC is confirming that the bodies of a man and a woman were found on a property on the street, but it's unclear if they were discovered inside a home or outside. Police also say the 2 knew each other, and criminal investigators have been assigned to the case. On Saturday, a number of police cars were seen in the area. It made for an eerie scene. Police caution tape wrapped around the same tree Christmas lights hung from. Police are now waiting on a report from the medical examiner. Officers are asking for anyone who knows anything about what happened on Windy Cove Lane to come forward. Meg Roberts, CBC News, Conception Bay South.
It's been 1 year since the creation of the Atlantic Domestic Homicide Review Network. The group brings together all 4 Atlantic provinces. Its aim is to review data and make recommendations for change. As part of our Deadly Relationship series, Here Now's Ariana Calland reports on the current status of that work.
It's not your typical Christmas tree, but for the family of Courtney Lake, it signifies so much. Purple was the 24-year-old's favorite color, and purple marks awareness of violence against women. 5 years since Lake's disappearance, 5 years lighting this tree in her memory.
Say every year it gets easier? It doesn't. It really doesn't. You know, I mean, she's gone.
Lake's body has never been found, but it has been deemed a homicide. The suspect, a former partner who later took his own life. The Atlantic Domestic Homicide Review Network has been set up to put cases like hers under the microscope. This emailed statement says the network spent its first year tackling funding, training, and gathering information from all provinces. All positive, according to this advocate from PEI.
Information is invaluable. It tells us what we can inform systems, what we can tell police, what we can tell justice officials, what we can tell health officials and doctors to look for, what we can tell neighbors and friends and family to look for in terms of risk factors for domestic homicide. This is life-saving information.
As chair of violence prevention for Newfoundland's Avalon East, Courtney Clark is used to round tables and committees. She's been on many of them.
I'm happy that governments want to hear what we need to say, but I would much rather for them to listen to what we're saying we need. Because at this point, when it comes to domestic homicide, gender-based violence, we need to stop talking and start doing.
And that sentiment rings true for the Lake family. They say gathering data in hopes of stopping domestic homicide is a good thing. But what about now?
This research will take us probably months and years out before we see any steadfast projects or steadfast changes. But right now, on the ground right now, we need changes.
PEI does not have its own domestic violence death review committee like Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. Neither does Newfoundland and Labrador. Legislative change is needed before that province can share data on men and women who've died at the hands of their partners. After 3 years of research, the network could make recommendations on how to reduce the number of domestic homicides. Ariana Calland, CBC News, St. John's.
The RNC is investigating after one of its own vehicles struck a pedestrian in downtown St. John's. It happened last night, just after 6 o'clock on Harvey Road, in the Harvey Road area, rather. The RNC isn't doing interviews, but in a statement, the force says a woman was injured and then taken to hospital for assessment, but there's no word on the severity of those injuries. Well, in other news, the City of St. John's has adopted a balanced budget for 2022, and many home and business owners may feel it directly. But there won't be cuts to services. In fact, winter walkers and public transit users may find it easier to get around. Here Now's Terry Roberts is live at City Hall with the details. Terry.
Yeah, well, Carolyn, this newly elected City Council, they came into this budget cycle with a problem, a $13 million projected deficit for 2022. So how did that come about? Well, 2 reasons. First of all, property assessments. That came back with not such great news. The property values for residences, homeowners, and also commercial, that dropped. Actually would have resulted in a shortfall of about $3 million. So how is and secondly, of course, the spending is also up here in the city by about $10 million. We're talking, higher employee costs, and even the cost to operate the city's fleet is going up considerably, from fuel to parts, you name it. So how has the city, what's it going to do to tame this problem? Well, it's going to jack up the property mill rate. That's basically the number that's used to, in combination with the assessed value of your property, to come up with the bill that the city sends you every year for your property taxes. So if you're a homeowner in the city of St. John's, a residential taxpayer, you're going to the mill rate is going to go from 7.7 to 8.3. That's a hike of 0.6. For businesses, it's going to go from 26.1 to 26.9, up 0.8. So what does that mean for your tax bill? Well, there's about 41,000 residential properties in the city. About 30% of those, well, they're not going to see any really change at all, and some will experience a decrease. It all depends on how they fare during that assessment process. But 80%, they're going to see an increase of up to $120 per year for residential taxes. So that's up to $120, but perhaps, in many cases, a lot less. So if you're a business owner in the city, you're going to experience, an increase of about 5% or less. So, and also for water services, that's going up. There's a $5 increase going up to $625 a year, and all that money, by the way, goes into maintaining a safe and supply of water for citizens. So those are big numbers. The city will reach into your pockets next year, and they're going to take out about an additional $9 million in that range in property taxes. So here is Ron Ellsworth, city councillor, defending that decision.
I am a taxpayer in the city, both residential and commercial. We understand what the impact is, but we also understand the impact of not having the revenue, not being able to provide services, not keeping the doors open to our recreation facilities, not being there when people need us most. We understand that also. So we work through the budget process to minimize the impact to the best of our ability and still maintain the service levels. Also understanding there was a request, a push from the community, improve transportation, improve sidewalk snow clearing. We also want to do some investment in long-term debt reduction that saves us several $1 million a year for the coming years by paying down long-term debt now, which will help us in the 2022 and the 2023 budget.
Now, there's some good news in this budget. The city is, as Mr. Ellsworth pointed out there, they are making some investments. So especially if you use public transit or you're a winter walker in this city, first of all, the Metro Bus is introducing a new zip network starting early next month on 4 key routes in the city. What's going to happen is that the services are going to start earlier in the morning. They're going to go later at night. There's going to be more frequent services. So that's for routes 1, 2, 3, and I believe 10. And also paratransit. There's going to be an extra $1.8 million invested in paratransit next year as that service rebounds following the pandemic. And sidewalk snow clearing. Of course, that's been an issue for many years in this city. A lot of concern about that. The city is going to invest about $500,000 to hire an extra shift, a third shift, to do sidewalk snow clearing in the city. That's all in response, of course, to a lot of safety concerns over the years, and to try and make the city more welcoming and inclusive, especially to new citizens. Once again, here's Councillor Ellsworth.
We heard loud and clear. We just came out of an election. We had a large number of people on the doorsteps during campaigning, and we all heard loud and strong that they do not want to see a decrease in service levels of programs. We also have a large population in our city. We're a marginalized population. Improved transit was important, and certainly a socio-economic balance that's required, and we understood that and tried to meet that the best way we could.
Now there is a few more highlights here. That popular downtown pedestrian mall, that's going to be back for next year, and coinciding, of course, with Newfoundland and Labrador Come Home year. That $2 million in grants that the city gives out every year to community groups, including the arts community, that remains intact. That's going to be there. So overall, nearly $320 million operating budget for the city, which was adopted unanimously. Reporting live from St. John City Hall, I'm Terry Roberts for Here and Now.
Well, from municipal to provincial government spending, the provincial government is spending big on some old-fashioned chairs. The government has signed a contract to buy 4 specially made chairs for the Colonial Building. Total price tag, $136,000. Here now's Garrett Berry has the details.
It's straight out of the Victorian era. 4 circular sofas with French inspiration, centerpieces for the government's restoration of the Colonial Building. And those couches aren't cheap, about $34,000 each.
For you or I, it looks like draperies, or it looks like a chair. But this is not a chair or draperies you can just go and buy off the shelf. The last time that they were manufactured, for us, would have, again, been in 1850.
Steve Crocker is the Minister for Tourism and Culture, and he says this kind of a price tag is just the cost of doing business. He says it's an investment into tourism in this province.
I see it as an asset, and I see it as an investment into our future, because I'm going to tell you, people are going to want to see what's in that building, and I think it's very important to our economy.
In total, the Colonial Building renovations will cost about $22 million. Crocker says the project is on time and on budget, and he says most of the work has gone to local contractors.
It's great to see our heritage carpenters working. For us to be able to keep these companies busy and these companies have that expertise in this small province, it's amazing.
When it's done, the building will be open as a provincial historic site, and as for those chairs, you will be allowed to sit on them when the Colonial Building reopens in 2022. Garrett Berry, CBC News, St. John's.
Now, the opposition is calling the spending tone-deaf in light of the financial challenges facing the province. It says some of the higher-priced furniture items, like the Victorian-era couches, weren't needed when the government is supposed to be looking for savings everywhere.
I thought it was an expense that ought not to occur. My father used to always say there's a time and place for everything, Craig, and I would say that during this time is not the time nor it's the place for it to occur. When we spend money on behalf of the residents of Newfoundland and Labrador, every line item and every expenditure has to be scrutinized. So there are items, and most of that $22 million in the restoration of Colonial Building was probably meritorious, that we'd have no objection with. But when you come down to the purchase of the 4 chairs, this would be something that I would think, looking at the cost of living that we have in our province, and knowing that the time is not right for the expenditure of this type.
Well, the holiday season inspires many people to help others, and with this spirit in mind, some employees at St. Luke's have started a secret Santa for residents. Here now's Henrika Wilhelm has this story.
It started in 2016 when some employees at retirement community St. Luke's in St. John's wanted to spread Christmas cheer. The Snowflake project was born. What started out with 40 residents has now grown to over 80.
It's overwhelming. I get a lot of emails and a lot of phone calls. People just want to help in honor of their loved one. They might have had someone that lived here at St. Luke's. A lot of times it's in memory of their grandparents or their parents, and they just want to give back in some small way.
Residents have very humble wishes like personal care items.
Body wash, coconut and powder, soap and all that, right? Even me stuff me teeth, keep my teeth clean. That's for that too. Oh, last year I got clothes last year and chocolates and shoes. I got shoes last year, shoes, what you call them, snow boots. I got a lot of stuff last year, blankets and everything.
The Secret Santa provides things that some of the seniors wouldn't be able to afford otherwise.
We started out, that was the main reason, but now we pick people because if they could just use a little bit of happiness or, brighten up their Christmas, so we try to spread the joy.
They all love me and all that, right? And I love them. I love all the staff. I love them. If you want us out there, I love them.
For the employees, this project is a way of giving back and bringing joy.
A lot of our residents live on a comfort allowance, and out of that allowance they still have to pay for a phone bill if they want a phone, or their hair. So this way we can help take away some of that stress of the items that they would like to have that they may not necessarily have the funds to pay for. So it's a wonderful feeling to provide Polident for our residents.
All these items have already been dropped off, and donors have time until Friday to gift items to St. Luke's, and they will then be given to the residents on Christmas Day. Henrika Wilhelm, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, from one kind gesture to another, this is one that's meant everything to one family in St. John's. Amanda Cran says even at the end of her life, her mother was adamant. Mrs. Cran wanted to look her best for her funeral, and no detail was too small.
So Amanda took to social media looking for someone who would be comfortable giving her mom a manicure, even in palliative care. We'll let Amanda take it from here.
Even though Mom is a fisherman and she's from Petty Harbour, she's a true harbour dog, rough and tough, but she's always looked her best. Her nails were always done, her hair. We had arrangements made for someone to come to our house that last Tuesday, but Mom took sick on Wednesday and ended up in palliative care. So I just figured I'd take a chance and reach out on Facebook.
Friday afternoon, I sat down and I opened my Facebook app, and at the very top was this post. I didn't think, I just knew I needed to be there.
See, I knew it was a pretty big ask. Not everyone is comfortable with coming in to do the nails in palliative care, but it's definitely answered within seconds.
So I sat in my car for a couple minutes before I went in, took some deep breaths, because I didn't know what I was going into. If she's awake, then she's gonna have a normal appointment to make her feel special. And when I went in, honestly, I opened the door and I felt like I was walking into my family.
Actually, before she come in the room, Mom was not feeling well and didn't feel at the time. She said she didn't know she'd feel up for getting her nails done. And from the time Stephanie walked in the room, her and Mom instantly connected, and Mom spent the next 3 hours sat up talking and laughing, something she hasn't done in a while.
For me, it was an extra special appointment versus, normally it's an hour for a gel manicure, and this was a 3-hour visit.
She didn't just do my mom's nails, she pampered her. She pampered her, gave her the full treatment, and when she was done, Mom, she looked at her nails and she thought they were beautiful, and she said, "How much do I owe you?" And Stephanie leaned in, actually the picture shows us, leaned in and held her hand, and she said, "Not a penny." We were all in tears. We couldn't believe it. She's an inspiration, she really is. I think it's the world over. It feels like I've known her forever. It might seem like Stephanie keeps saying that she don't see what the big deal is. Like, to her, it isn't a big deal, and it might seem in the big scheme of things like a small gesture to do someone's nails, but in a situation where all control has been taken from us and from our mom, it was one thing that we could still do for her, that we could give her, that she wanted, and to us, she'll never know what it meant to us. So thank you, Stephanie. You'll forever be a part of our family.
What a powerful story. Sadly, Margot Cran passed away over the weekend from terminal cancer. We're sending our thoughts and condolences to her friends and family. We'll be right back.
This year, we're connecting more, we're sharing more, and we're helping more. This season, whatever kind of season you make it, make the season kind.
Time for a look at the weather. And Jeremy, it has been windy.
You know what? It has been windy. And it was windy all weekend, and it was windy today. It's going to be a little bit windy tomorrow. Now, there's actually a wind warning in place for the Northern Peninsula, the eastern part of the Northern Peninsula today, but that ended.
Okay.
And there was a snow squall watch, but now there's a risk of snow squalls.
Okay.
But we'll get into all that and more. I don't know why I've said that twice tonight. That's not even good. So here's today's high temperatures. As you can see, it was a balmy 6 degrees in Cape Race today and another 6 in Marystown. Those were the hot spots, but it is December, so I'm not sure what people expect. The coldest would have been -9 in Churchill Falls and -9 in Labrador City. Now, things are only going to go down from here. They're not going to go up. So we'll take a quick look here at what's going to happen tonight. So for much of the island, what we're looking at is there's going to be precipitation overnight, mainly in the form of it's either going to be rain. It's going to be, I guess, start as rain, then turn to snow here on the eastern Avalon. Same thing down in Marystown. Gander and Grand Falls, you're going to get flurries. Same thing in Port aux Basques and Corner Brook. Now, we were talking about the West Coast earlier today because there was a snow squall watch in place. So there was a little bit of snow that fell in and around Corner Brook and into the Gross Mourne area. Now, that watch has ended, the official watch from Environment Canada. The official watch from Environment Canada has ended, but there is a risk of it coming back tomorrow. Now, it was -7 in St. Anthony, and it will be -7 in St. Anthony. I'll get it together sooner or later. So now if we look up tonight in Labrador, the wind chill is going to be a big factor in Labrador tonight. Now, as you can see, it's going to be -14, but that could feel as cold as -24 with the wind chill. Happy Valley Goose Bay, -10. That could feel as cold as -20. And then up in Nain, it's -7. And Nain and Makovic, I think you could feel as cold as -18 overnight. So while it is Labrador and it is cold, that's still going to feel pretty cold for some people up there in the Big Land. But let's just take a look at the future tracker. So this is going to bring a system that's going to affect in and around the metro area. You can see that there's this band of snow and rain that's going to come across, and it's going to drop a bit of precipitation along the southwest coast, along Marystown, and up into, oh man, how come the future tracker went away? It's supposed to reset and it didn't. So this will bring some precipitation into Tuesday. So it'll be Tuesday, which is tomorrow, and then into Tuesday night. So there could be some accumulation of snow in the forecast coming for these parts of the province. But let's just take a quick look at what it's going to look like tomorrow. So in the beginning, I said it's going to be a mixed bag. And this is what I'm talking about. This is the mixed bag. So you're looking at about maybe 2 to 4 centimeters in and around St. John's Bay, Roberts tomorrow. You know, Ferry Island and Placentia, you could get 5 to 10 millimeters of rain. Now, Clarenville, you could get 2 to 4 centimeters of snow. And if we pop down to Marystown, you could get 5 millimeters of rain. And this is what's going to be expected tomorrow and into tomorrow night as well. So as we move into central, things are pretty chill up here in Gander, Grand Falls, and Twillingate. You're going to have what's like my favorite icon is this icon, which is the sun and flurries. So you will see the sun, but there will also be a chance of flurries between 40 and 60%, but look at Harbour Breton. You could get 5 centimeters of snow. So it's going to be a little bit of everything tomorrow. And now Burgeo and Port aux Basques, you could also get 2 to 5 centimeters tomorrow. And like I was talking about earlier, the snow squalls, so that's going to affect Stephenville. There's a risk. Stephenville, Corner Brook, Gross Mourne, even into Deer Lake and Lassie, 2 to 4 centimeters of snow. As we work our way up the Northern Peninsula, this is where things start to level out, and it's going to be a little bit more consistent. It's going to be snow, possible flurries there in St. Anthony, Lancelot, Cartwright, and as we move across the Big Land, it's a chillier than the island, which is to be expected, but you're still going to see the sun, possibly a few flurries, but there's no real accumulation. So this is the future tracker that I was trying to get to loop. As you can see that there's this band coming down, and this is going to bring the snow there on Corner Brook, and it's this part right here that's going to bring, oh God, I suck at this. This is going to bring some precipitation overnight to the Avalon. So it's going to start snowing tomorrow, overnight and into tomorrow, and then it's going to continue into Tuesday night, so we could get a little bit of snow. Not really sure of the amounts at this point, but we'll burn that bridge tomorrow. And so so it's supposed to reset. Sorry, man, it's the first time I've done this in a while. I apologize. So basically, what we're bracing for tomorrow is we could see, and we should probably get rid of those today's highs. You know, I'm just going to walk out of this. So basically, brace for it's going to be snowy, or it's going to be rainy on the Avalon, and it's going to move across. It's going to be nice and central, and then up in the Big Land, it's going to be a little bit chilly as well. And I'll have a better forecast when I come back, I hope.
Well, there's a celebration happening at the Kids Eat Smart Foundation office in St. John's. The organization just won a $100,000 donation in a national competition. And if you're wondering just how excited they are about it, just have a look at this video of the moment they found out they won.
Because you're the big winner, I guess. Say congrats.
And joining me now is Selena Stoyles, the executive director of the Kids Eat Smart Foundation. So that was quite the reaction to the win. What was going through your mind in that moment?
We were truly excited, humbled. We had no idea that we had won. It was $100,000. That is 100,000 breakfasts. So really, you know what, we were humbled and excited. But up until that point, we had no idea that we were the winners. I think being chosen as a charity, one of the 12 finalists across the country, that in itself was just incredible. But when you look at all the incredible work that's happening in Atlantic Canada with other charities, we really had no idea. And being in Newfoundland and Labrador, we knew it was a philanthropic voting contest. And as Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, we're familiar with that, and we always strive to come out on top. And you know what? Friday we found out we did just that. And I think when you're talking about children coming to school and having food, access to food at school at no cost to families, that's critical. Children have to come to school. So as long as we're financially supported, we're going to continue to do the incredible work that we do. And because of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, whether it's in here in Newfoundland, Labrador, across the country, they voted for us and we won.
$100,000 is so much money. What will you be able to do with that money?
Every day we serve over 31,000 meals to school-aged children, 5.4 million meals every school year. So when you think about that, we are going to ensure that every child and youth who comes to school hungry, for whatever reason, they have access to food. And I think that that is the most incredible work that we're doing, and that's the impact. You know what, children, we know that children, when they have a healthy breakfast, that they're more attentive, that, you know, the academics go up, and we're told as well that days when breakfast is served, the attendance goes up.
How far will that money go?
It will serve over 100,000 breakfasts. So it is a $100,000 gift. We were also chosen as the employee favorite, so we also received an additional $5,000. So we say $1 is a breakfast for a child. That's 105,000 breakfasts for our children right here in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Well, Selena Stoyles, congratulations on the win. Thank you so much for telling us about it.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Well, this weekend's Mummers Parade drew hundreds. They all came out to see them. All kinds of people, all kinds of costumes, making all kinds of a racket.
Yes, not surprisingly, since last year's parade had to be virtual because of the pandemic. So welcome back, Mummers. This year you are allowed in.
The province is spending $136,000 to get 4 sofas custom built for the colonial building renovations. The minister calls it an investment, but the opposition sees it as a waste of money. I talked to the MHA for Trinity Bay North, Craig Party, about his concerns. So what concern did you have when you saw that government was spending more than $130,000 on 4 new chair-like things for the colonial building?
I thought the expenditure showed a lack of sensitivity for the people and the residents of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Why is that?
Well, I thought it was an expense that ought not to occur. My father used to always say there's a time and place for everything, Craig, and I would say that during this time is not the time nor it's the place for it to occur. And again, we don't need to go into the reasons why the situation that we face currently. Then, yeah, we didn't need an expenditure for these 4 chairs.
When you look at the fact they're spending $22 million to restore this important piece of Newfoundland and Labrador history and an important asset for the province, doesn't it make sense to try and do some of these sort of specialized things that need to be restored in order to bring it back to the way it was?
I don't think anybody has an objection to the restoration of the colonial building, and as you state, it's such a significant part of our history. No doubt about that. But I think that the government, when we spend money on behalf of the residents of Newfoundland and Labrador, every line item and every expenditure has to be scrutinized. So there are items, and most of that $22 million in the restoration of the colonial building was probably meritorious, that we'd have no objection with. But when you come down to the purchase of the 4 chairs, this would be something that I would think, looking at the cost of living that we have in our province, and knowing that the time is not right for the expenditure of this type. So yes, the budget, Peter, of the $22 million, without a doubt, and we concur with the restoration of the building, but not on the purchase of the 4 chairs.
So what is it that you think government should have done here?
I would look at it. You did an article in 2016 where I think then Speaker Osborne was soliciting people to give back the materials that were taken in the 32 riot. Total amnesty created. Maybe another effort at that to see what was out there, to see if there's any more to come back. Victorian era chairs, I would think in the historic district of Bonavista, in Metro St. John's and many outlying areas, that we'll probably have a significant number of Victorian era chairs that someone conceivably would part with, would donate to a good cause who believes in the restoration of the colonial building. Another constituent in my district mentioned just recently this morning on a conversation, as an aside note to what they called on, mentioned, why didn't they have the carpentry on their mentor program at the College of North Atlantic do these chairs and create them within a learning environment and a mentorship within the College of North Atlantic? So these were some things that ought to have been explored before this was awarded, I would think.
Although going back to the donation question, I doubt that anyone has these very specific circular, round, custom-built Victorian chairs. They're not just any chair.
No, there may be different shapes, but if it's within the Victorian era, then maybe it'll do us as opposed to spending $136,000 on them. It's conceivable. So, you know, if we had loose chairs from that era that we can have more of them and get a dozen of them, then that may suffice and save us the $136,000.
Is this an issue of $132,000, or is this an issue of optics at a time when government is looking at ways to cut back?
It's a measure of $136,000 of taxpayers' money used to purchase these chairs. I'm well familiar with the District of Bonavista. I can speak on behalf of the needs within the District of Bonavista. I can speak about the cost of living in my district, of which is what is significant impact. It's far more than optics. And when we look at expenditures of taxpayers' money, and that's exactly what it is, we report on it all the time, we speak about it. When we look at the expenditure of this type, and knowing there are so many other great needs out there for the cost of living, then it's far more than optics. It's significant.
Well, thank you very much for joining me and sharing your concerns.
It was my pleasure. Peter, my pleasure.
Apologies that Carolyn's having a bit of trouble with her microphone there, but Kentucky's governor says at least 64 people have died from Friday's tornadoes, and he's warning that number could climb to more than 1,000. Search and rescue efforts continue as authorities try to account for the missing. Dawson Springs is one of the communities hardest hit. The CBC's Katie Simpson was there today.
The scope of the devastation is almost unbelievable. This is Dawson Springs, Kentucky, about an hour away from the epicenter of Mayfield, and you can see this community has also been completely flattened. You have trees that have been toppled, cars that have been overturned, and houses that just have been blown away. Today, the main effort here is all about search. There are emergency crews looking for the unaccounted for. There are people who are still missing, but the number is in flux. People are having a hard time getting in contact with one another because cell phone service, it isn't working properly. We're also seeing families returning to their homes looking for anything that might be salvageable. But when people get here, they find things like this. This was someone's living room. You can see there's couches, there's furniture, but it's all been completely destroyed. And so when people show up, that is a devastating blow to realize what they've lost. One method of communication that is working is that you can see that neon spray paint on that house. That means emergency crews have been to this home, they have searched it, and everyone is accounted for. That's one of the ways people are finding out whether their friends, their loved ones are okay. They're coming to these homes to look for those signs, to see if they've been accounted for, they know where they are, and that at least can give them some hope. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Dawson Springs.
Ottawa and the Department of National Defence have issued formal apologies to the victims of sexual misconduct in Canada's military. The country's top soldier and the Defence Minister delivered those apologies today.
For far too long, your government failed to dedicate enough time, money, personnel, and effort to deal with sexual harassment, sexual assault, and discrimination based on sex, gender, gender identity, and sexual orientation in the military.
As someone who has given my entire life to this institution and who loves it so deeply, it breaks my heart. And today I offer my most profound apologies. On behalf of an institution that has failed you, on behalf of those who didn't listen, on behalf of every person who took no action, we profoundly and sincerely apologize.
The apologies form a key part of the federal government's $600 million settlement in several overlapping class action lawsuits. Nearly 19,000 serving and retired members of the military, as well as civilian defense workers, have submitted statements over sexual misconduct.
Well, shifting to COVID news now, cases due to the Omicron virus are now on pace to double every 3 days in Ontario. The number of cases there is higher than it's been in more than 6 months.
But what is important now, the only thing that really works is if everybody has all, just contributes here and just says, okay, we now decrease our contact rates massively. We see less people, we work from home, etc. This doesn't have to go back to where we were a year ago or something. That's not the point.
Vaccination continues to be one of the strongest protective measures people can take. The doctor says provinces need to massively boost their third dose rollout, though people with 2 doses are still highly protected against the need for hospitalization.
The UK has recorded its first death linked to the Omicron variant. The British Prime Minister says extra protection is needed to fight what he calls the tidal wave of Omicron. Tessa Arcilia has the details.
The British Prime Minister Boris Johnson confirmed the first death today in relation to the Omicron variant here in the UK. We don't have much detail about the patient, but the Prime Minister indicated that the Omicron variant is something that we really have to take seriously.
I think the idea that this is somehow a milder version of the virus, I think that's something we need to set on one side and just recognise the sheer pace at which it accelerates through the population.
The spread of this variant has been doubling every 2 to 3 days in the country, and the British government has employed their new strategy of boosting the booster program. Boris Johnson said the goal is to have 1 million jabs of the booster shot a day and to have every eligible adult above the age of 18 given their booster shot, or at least offered them, by the end of the year. A new UK study published last week but has yet to be peer-reviewed seems to suggest that 2 COVID vaccines is not enough to be effective against the Omicron variant, but that a booster shot increases that effectiveness to up to 75%.
We know that a third dose really boosts immunity very well, whether you've had 2 doses of AstraZeneca before or 2 doses of Pfizer. If you get another dose of the Pfizer vaccine, for example, you see a really significant increase in antibodies. And that then is much more likely to provide cross protection against Omicron. So I think it's really important to prioritize that.
That was the first real-world study of the Omicron variant, and scientists, of course, are still looking for more details about just how severe this variant could be. In the meantime, the UK has also implemented their Plan B starting today. People in England are urged to work from home from today onwards. Tessa Celia, CBC News, London.
This special bird is going to come fly to your house and bring you good luck.
Christmas is different in Tanzania.
The cheesiest, most fun Christmas songs.
There was a rubber boot in there and just all this junk.
Mummers, mummers! What is mummers?
Spreading that tradition, sharing it with our friends.
A little bit of joy and a little bit of dancing.
It took me forever to try to figure it out, but...
Not much has changed, Brad.
No.
All right, time for a look at the long range. So we mentioned earlier that tomorrow is going to be a mixed bag in the east, and it's not going to be great.
It's not going to be great, but it's like mid-December in Newfoundland and Labrador. It's not like, I don't know what we were expecting, but I'm just trying to let us down gently and easily. But we are heading into winter. We're already in winter. Who am I kidding? So you might as well get a shovel ready. So let's try to pick up where we left off and see if I can't, salvage something out of this. So this is the future tracker, as you can see here. It says it. So this is the band here. So all this is going to come down. It's going to move across the Avalon. So this is going to come in. It's going to start Tuesday, and then it's going to hang around. Like that says Wednesday at 4 a.m. So it's going to hang around for a while. So there could be some accumulation. I don't know. We're looking maybe between 5 and 10 centimeters there for the metro, for the Avalon region, and probably Marystown as well. Corner Brook, you'll get a little bit of snow. Sadly, up in the big land, it's just going to be cold, and you're not going to get much snow as well. So if we run this for a bit, you can see that this is slowly going to push off as we move into Wednesday night. And now it's looping, wouldn't loop before. So as you can see, so this is going to bring some precipitation. So we're probably going to have to get used to that. And like I said, just be prepared. I'm not really sure. We'll talk more about the numbers tomorrow, what's going to happen Tuesday night, but there could be a little bit of snowfall coming. So get your shovels out, get the snowblower gassed up. But I guess everybody was ready. But after a day like today, you kind of forget. So I was like, maybe winter is taking a break. No, it's not taking a break. So now this is the look ahead. So as we're talking about for Wednesday, as you can see, look at those temperatures up in Labrador. It's sunny, but I've lived in Labrador City. I'm not sure if I talk about this all the time, but I did live there for a while. And it's a dry cold. Minus 15 means nothing up there. But it's going to be a sunny day, hopefully a large day for you folks up there. Minus 14 in Nain, minus 13 in Happy Valley, Goose Bay, minus 8 in Cartwright. But look at all that sunshine. A little bit cloudier on Wednesday coming then into the island. You could get some flurries in Corner Brook, but I know the folks at Marble Mountain would be excited if that happens, so they could try to get open for December 26th. I think, not sure if that's still the date that they're working on. And, minus 6 in Marystown, minus 6 in St. Anthony, and minus 4 in St. John's. So now this is moving in later on to the week, Thursday into Friday, and you can see this is a mixed bag, that coming in there. So that's a bit of snow mixed in. The snow and then rain, and then that's going to slowly make its way over the island into Thursday and Friday, so we could get some more precipitation then as well. But let's just take a quick look at the, If I had a piece of chalk, I could write it in. I know our older audience members would get that joke. But if you can look here, the temperature is going to stay pretty good. Bit of cloud, bit of sun on Thursday, but we're going to be in the negatives probably for the foreseeable future. If we look into central Newfoundland as well, gets a little bit colder there in central, minus 13 on Wednesday overnight. And Corner Brook, you're looking for some precipitation early this week, and then some sun as we work into the weekend. And as we move up into Labrador, it is going to get cold, but that's to be expected. But if you look at those in eastern, minus 15 on Tuesday overnight, minus 19. It's probably going to be a little bit chillier with the wind chill. And in western Labrador, minus 16 and minus 21. Now, the last time I was here, I forgot the weather picture of the day. I did it. I actually brought this. Carolyn, I thought of you when I picked this one.
Thank you.
So this was sent in by Don Devereaux. And as you can see, I don't know, he didn't say what the name of his dog was, but oh my God, man. We can't even talk about the picture because I've already passed it. Anyways, so basically Don Devereaux sent that picture in. He said he's not sure if his dog helps out a lot when it comes to shoveling, but he does appreciate a good bit of snow.
The dog looked like it was pretty comfortable there,
well,
just watching.
Living the dream, but don't got a shovel.
Doesn't have to worry about being cold either with the beautiful fur coat.
And that does it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Have a great night.
See you tomorrow.
Good night.